All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating shift happening in education. It's this move away from that old one-size-fits-all classroom, the one with all the high-stakes testing. And instead, it's a move toward a system that's built on a pretty simple but really powerful idea: trust. So let's get into how it all works.
So, this is the big question, right? It's the one that pretty much keeps teachers and parents up at night. You've got this one room, it's full of kids, and they all have totally different strengths. They learn at different speeds, they have different needs. How on earth can one teacher, with just one curriculum, possibly reach every single one of them in a way that actually matters? Honestly, it can feel like an impossible puzzle to solve.
And there's actually a formal term for this exact problem. Academics see it as this huge conflict. On one side, you have the pressure of the curriculum, the constant push to get through a certain amount of material by the end of the year. And on the other side, you've got this inclusive attitude, the genuine desire to meet every single kid right where they are. In a normal classroom, those two things are basically always at war with each other.
So, how do you fix that? How do you resolve that contradiction? Well, that brings us to the first piece of this new approach. It's a philosophy for teaching called the Churer Model, and it's an idea that's starting to get a lot of attention even outside of its home in Switzerland. So what is it exactly? Well, to put it simply, the Churer Model is all about creating a classroom where students aren't all stuck on the same page at the exact same time. It uses something called internal differentiation, which is really just a fancy way of saying that the learning tasks themselves are designed to work for a whole range of abilities, all within the same lesson. This means you can get real, individualized learning even when everyone's in a group together. Now, this whole thing is built on a few core ideas that all have to work together. It kicks off with this bedrock principle of accepting every single student, no matter what. From there, it makes sense to offer different kinds of tasks and really targeted support. But here's what makes it click: giving students some autonomy, letting them actually have a say in their own learning by choosing tasks and even who they work with. Now, this isn't about letting the classroom turn into chaos. It's about trusting the kids while the teacher works closely with specialists to make sure everyone's getting what they need. Okay, so if you've completely changed how you teach, that brings up a whole new question, right? How are you supposed to measure progress in a system that isn't standardized anymore? And this is where the second piece of the puzzle slots in, a tool called the IKM+. The name IKM+, stands for Individual Competence Measurement Plus. And I want you to think of it less like a final exam and more like a doctor's checkup, but for learning. It's a yearly diagnostic for 3rd and 4th graders that gives a really clear snapshot of what a student knows right now and where they can grow. The absolute key here is that it's not about judging them, it's about understanding them. And this chart, this is where you really see the massive philosophical shift. Traditional tests, they're all high stakes. They're designed to rank and sort kids, and the end result is a grade, a number that can feel so final. The IKM+ just flips that whole idea on its head. It's low stakes. The results absolutely do not affect grades or getting into other schools. The focus is purely on an individual's own progress, and the outcome isn't just a score. It's a conversation. It's a total shift from control to collaboration. Okay, so we've got these two big ideas, right? A super flexible way of teaching and a diagnostic tool that's all about feedback, not judgment. So what happens when you put them together? Well, you get this incredibly powerful feedback loop. It creates this amazing positive cycle of learning. So it starts with the teacher who's using the Churer model to give individualized instruction. Then the student takes the IKM+ check. And here's the magic moment. The results aren't just a report card. They become the starting point for a 3-way talk between the teacher, the parent, and the student themselves. In that meeting, they look at the data together and set real, concrete goals. And then the teacher takes that info and uses it to make their teaching even better, and the whole cycle just starts all over again. It's a living, breathing process. And that's really the heart of it. This whole system changes the game. It's no longer a top-down thing where information is just delivered. It becomes a real partnership. The student isn't just a passive kid waiting for a grade anymore. They're an active participant in their own education. And they've got their parents and their teacher right there on their team. Now, for a system like this to actually work, for parents and for the students themselves to buy into it, it absolutely has to be built on an unshakable foundation. And that foundation is trust, which means putting safety and privacy right at the very top of the list. And look, these aren't just some vague promises. These are hard and fast rules. The data is completely firewalled. It cannot be used for grades. It cannot be used for admissions to other schools. The only people who can see the results with a child's name on them are that child's teacher and the school's leadership, and they are forbidden from sharing it. And of course, the whole thing operates under super strict data privacy laws, and it all starts with parental consent.
These aren't just features, they're the very bedrock that makes this entire model possible.
And this brings us to what might be the deepest, most important takeaway from all of this. The trust doesn't just flow from the system to the family. It has to flow from the teacher to the child. A teacher working in this model has to have a fundamental belief that if you give children the right environment, the right tools, and a little bit of freedom, they will learn. It's a major shift from trying to control learning to instead facilitating it.
So ultimately, this entire model, where tests are for talking, not for judging, and where classrooms are built around individual kids, not a rigid calendar, it all comes down to trust. And it leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. What else in education could we completely reimagine if we just chose to build it on a foundation of trust? Thanks for joining this explainer.